As I sat in my home office, staring at the computer screen, my mind was a whirlwind of emotions. The once familiar space now felt like a cage, trapping me in a reality I could no longer recognize. The gentle ticking of the clock on the wall seemed to mock me, a reminder of how quickly my world had crumbled. Karen's deceit had hit me like a ton of bricks, and the evidence was undeniable. The text messages, the secret rendezvous, and the photos exchanged with her lover, James McAllister. It was all a twisted tapestry of lies and betrayal. I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my temples in an attempt to alleviate the throbbing headache that had taken up residence. How could I have been so blind? How could I have missed the signs? Karen and I had been together for over a decade, and I thought our love was unbreakable. As I replayed the events in my mind, the memories were tainted with a bitter sting. The nights when Karen would come home late from work, the sudden interest in dressing up for no particular reason, and the distant look in her eyes when we were together. It all made sense now. I couldn't help but feel like a fool, a mere pawn in her game of deceit. Anger and hurt swirled within me, threatening to consume me whole, but I knew I couldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment. I had to think rationally, to devise a plan that would not only expose her lies, but also give her a taste of her own medicine. With a newfound determination, I began to strategize. I would plan a romantic weekend getaway, a ruse to lure Karen into a false sense of security. Little did she know that I had a few tricks up my sleeve. The days leading up to our trip were excruciating, but I managed to maintain a facade of ignorance. Karen seemed oblivious to my inner turmoil, her mind likely consumed by the thrill of her illicit affair. Finally, the day of our departure arrived, and I presented Karen with a beautifully wrapped gift, a stunning diamond necklace. Her eyes lit up with excitement, and she eagerly adorned herself with the sparkling jewels, unaware of the tiny hidden camera nestled among the stones. As we arrived at the luxury resort, I played the part of the doting husband, showering Karen with affection and attention. I booked a private dining experience, complete with a violinist serenading us under the stars. I even arranged a couple spa treatment, ensuring that Karen was at ease and unsuspecting. But beneath the surface, my mind was racing. I knew that Karen would seize any opportunity to meet with James, and I was ready. The hidden camera would capture every sordid detail, providing me with the evidence I needed to bring her web of lies crashing down around her. As the weekend progressed, I witnessed firsthand the lengths Karen would go to deceive me. She would slip away at any chance she got, meeting with James in secret rendezvous. Each time, the camera would faithfully record their encounters, storing the proof I needed. By the time we returned home, I felt a sense of grim satisfaction. The plan had worked flawlessly, and now it was time to execute the final phase. I insisted on hosting a small gathering with friends and family, under the guise of sharing our vacation photos. Little did Karen know that the true spectacle would be the unveiling of her betrayal. As our guests arrived, I carefully concealed my anticipation, greeting them with a warm smile. Karen, oblivious to the storm brewing, played the role of the perfect hostess. But soon, the facade would shatter, and the truth would be laid bare for all to see. As our guests settled into their seats, I made my way to the front of the room, the weight of the remote control in my hand feeling heavier than ever. Karen shot me a quizzical look, her brow furrowed in confusion, but I remained stoic, my expression betraying nothing. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice steady despite the storm raging within me. "Karen and I had a wonderful time on our recent vacation, and we're excited to share some of the highlights with you." A murmur of anticipation rippled through the room as I prepared the projector. Karen, ever the performer, offered a radiant smile to our guests, oblivious to the bombshell I was about to drop. With a deep breath, I pressed play, and the first image flickered onto the screen. A candid shot of Karen embracing James in a passionate kiss. Gasps and hushed whispers filled the air, but I remained unflinched, letting the damning footage speak for itself. "Michael, what is this?" Karen's voice trembled, her eyes wide with panic. I turned to face her, my expression cold and unforgiving. "Don't play dumb, Karen. You know exactly what this is." The next few minutes were a whirlwind of betrayal and deception. as the carefully edited compilation played out before our stunned audience. Karen's secret rendezvous with James, their intimate moments captured in vivid detail, and the undeniable evidence of her lies. It was all laid bare for everyone to see. "How could you do this to me, Karen?" I demanded, my voice laced with a mixture of anger and heartbreak. "After everything we've been through, after all the years we've spent building our life together, you threw it all away for what? A fling with some sleazy businessman?" Karen's face was ashen. Her lips parted in a silent plea for forgiveness. But I was beyond words, beyond reason. The pain of her betrayal had carved a deep wound, one that would never fully heal. "Michael, please, let me explain," Karen pleaded, her voice trembling with desperation. "Explain what, Karen?" I spat, my anger rising like a tidal wave. "How you lied to me day after day, night after night. How you looked me in the eye and told me you loved me while you were sneaking around behind my back." The room was deathly silent, save for the occasional sniffle or gasp from our guests. I could see the looks of shock and pity on their faces, and for a moment, I felt a pang of guilt for exposing Karen's indiscretion so publicly. But then I remembered the depth of her betrayal, and my resolve hardened once more. "I trusted you, Karen," I continued, my voice thick with emotion. "I gave you my heart, my soul, my entire being, and you trampled on that trust like it meant nothing." Karen's eyes glistened with unshed tears, but I refused to be swayed by her crocodile tears. She had made her choice, and now she would have to live with the consequences. "You want to know the worst part?" I asked, my voice dropping to a low, menacing tone. "The worst part is that you didn't even have the decency to come clean when you had the chance. You let me live a lie, day after day, while you were off gallivanting with your little boy toy." Karen flinched as if she had been slapped, her facade crumbling under the weight of my accusations. "I'm sorry, Michael," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm so sorry." But it was too little, too late. The damage had been done, and the trust between us had been shattered beyond repair. "Save your apologies, Karen," I said, my tone laced with disdain. "They mean nothing to me now." With a flick of the remote, the projector went dark, plunging the room into an eerie silence. I turned to face our guests, their expressions a mix of shock, pity, and discomfort. "I apologize for the unpleasantness," I said, my voice heavy with exhaustion. But I couldn't let Karen's deceit go unchecked. "You all deserve to know the truth." Without another word, I turned on my heel and left the room, leaving Karen to face the consequences of her actions alone. As I walked away, I could hear the murmurs and whispers of our guests, their voices a cacophony of judgment and condemnation. As I stepped out into the cool night air, the weight of the evening's events felt like a heavy burden on my shoulders. But beneath the pain and anger, there was a glimmer of relief. Relief that the truth had finally been exposed, and I could begin to move on from Karen's web of lies. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. Karen pleaded with me, begging for forgiveness and a second chance, but I remained steadfast in my resolve. How could I ever trust her again, after she had so callously betrayed my love and trust? "Michael, please, let's talk about this," Karen implored, her eyes red-rimmed from tears. "I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but I love you. You have to believe me." I shook my head, my heart hardened against her pleas. "Love? You don't know the meaning of the word, Karen. Love is about trust, loyalty, and respect. All the things you threw away for a cheap thrill." Karen flinched as if struck, her lips trembling with the weight of my words. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "It just happened." "It just happened?" I scoffed, anger bubbling up within me once more. "You think that's an excuse? You made a choice, Karen. A choice to betray me, to lie to me, to disrespect everything we built together. And now you have to live with the consequences." Karen's shoulders slumped in defeat, her eyes downcast. She knew there was no reasoning with me, not after the depth of her betrayal had been laid bare. With a heavy heart, I began the process of filing for divorce. The legal proceedings were a formality. Really, with the mountain of evidence I had gathered, Karen had no leg to stand on. She was forced to move out of our once shared home, the place where we had built a life together, now tainted by the bitter taste of her infidelity. But my thirst for justice didn't end there. James McAllister, the man who had so brazenly pursued my wife, needed to face the consequences of his actions as well. I tracked him down, the anger and hurt fueling my every step. When I finally found him, James was at home, no doubt reveling in the chaos he had helped create. Without hesitation, I rang the doorbell, my heart pounding in my chest. James' wife, a kind-hearted woman who had been blindsided by her husband's indiscretions, answered the door. Her eyes widened in recognition as she took in my stern expression. "Yes, what do you want?" she said. I took out my phone and showed her all the proof of her husband affair. She couldn't stop her tears watching those damn videos. "I think it's time your husband and I had a little chat." James emerged a few moments later, his cocky grin faltering when he saw the fury etched onto my face. "Michael, listen, I can explain," he began, but I cut him off with a swift punch to the jaw, the force of the blow sending him stumbling backward. "Explain what, James?" I snarled, my fists clenched at my sides. "How you seduced my wife. How you wormed your way into our lives and tore everything apart." James held up his hands in surrender, his eyes wide with fear. "It was just a fling, man. It didn't mean anything." "It meant everything to me," I growled, taking a step closer. "You destroyed my marriage, my family, all for a cheap thrill." James' wife stepped forward, her eyes blazing with fury. "Get out," she said, her voice low and deadly. "Get out of my house, and don't ever come back." James opened his mouth to protest, but one look from his wife silenced him. With a defeated sigh, he turned and trudged out the door, his tail tucked firmly between his legs. As I watched him go, I felt a sense of grim satisfaction. Justice had been served, and while it couldn't undo the pain of Karen's betrayal, it was a step in the right direction. In the weeks and months that followed, I threw myself into my work, channeling my energy into my career and personal growth. I sold our family home, the place where so many memories, both joyful and painful, had been made, and moved into a sleek condo in downtown Chicago. It was a fresh start, a chance to leave the past behind and forge a new path for myself. And as I settled into my new life, I found solace in the simple pleasures, quiet evenings spent reading or exploring the city, and reconnecting with old friends who had been there for me through the darkest of times. And then, one fateful evening, I met Olivia. She was a breath of fresh air, a kind and compassionate woman who had been through her own share of heartbreak. We bonded over our shared experiences, and before long, our friendship blossomed into something more. Olivia was everything Karen wasn't: loyal, trustworthy, and genuine. She saw me for who I truly was, not just the facade I had put up for so long. And in her arms, I found the love and acceptance I had been craving for so long. As our relationship deepened, I found myself letting go of the pain and anger that had weighed me down for so long. With Olivia by my side, I was able to see the world through a new lens, one free from the shadows of Karen's betrayal. And while the scars of that chapter in my life would never fully heal, I knew that I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.